ridiculously expensive hot-dog advance on.
Oh, so it's not touchscreen yet? I'm making a formal complaint. Right. Okay, good. Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in Village Hall, by mail to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled to same as provided by law of a schedule including the date and time of this meeting. Roll call.
Councilman Hache.
Here.
Councilman Seaton.
Here.
Councilman Voight.
Here.
Councilwoman Walsh.
Here.
And Mayor Newton.
Here. Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join us in a moment of silence on behalf of the men and women serving our nation and our first responders. Thank you. So this evening, let's see. We're going to start with our financial reports. I move the bills, claims, and vouchers and statements of funds on hand as of April 30th, 2017 be accepted as submitted.
Second.
Hache.
Yes.
Seaton.
Yes.
Voight.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes. I move that the Village Council minutes of March 3rd and March 8th, 2017, having been reviewed by the Village Council and now available in the Village Clerk's office, be approved as submitted. I'll second.
Hache.
Yes.
Seaton.
Yes.
Voight.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes. We're going to start with a few proclamations, but before, I just wanted to ask the Deputy Mayor, do you mind if we put the emergency medical services last? Does anyone
sure.
mind if I just rearrange the
No problem.
order a little? Okay. So great. We'll start with the National Cancer Survivors Day proclamation, is written by Councilman Jeffrey Voigt.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas today 15.5 million Americans are cancer survivors thanks to advances in early detection, treatment, and research, and whereas surviving cancer can leave a host of problems in its wake with physical, emotional, and financial hardships, often persisting for years after diagnosis. Treatment with challenges including access to cancer specialists and promising new treatments, denial of health and life insurance coverage, financial hardships long after the initial diagnosis and treatment, employment problems, psychological struggles, and the strain on personal relationships, and the profound fear of recurrence. And whereas the Village of Ridgewood has an active and productive cancer survivor population, demonstrating that cancer survivors can live active, productive lives, even though they still face many challenges, and whereas communities all across America will be celebrating National Cancer Survivors Day on Sunday, June 4th, 2017, as part of the world's largest annual cancer survivor event. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood does hereby proclaim June 4th, 2017 as National Cancer Survivors Day, and the Village of Ridgewood urges all residents to join in this joyous celebration of life.
Very good. Thank you, Councilman. A proclamation of May as Mental Health Awareness Month by Councilwoman Walsh.
Whereas West Bergen Mental Health Care was founded in 1963 as a child guidance clinic, and today is a full-range community mental health center serving over 3,000 people a year. And whereas West Bergen Mental Health Care offers a wide range of services that are designed to meet the needs of the people and families that it serves. And whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being. And whereas all Americans experience times of difficulty and stress in their lives, and whereas prevention is an effective way to reduce the burden of mental health conditions, and whereas there is a strong body of research that supports specific tools that all Americans can use to better handle challenges and protect their health and well-being, and whereas mental health conditions are real and prevalent in our nation, and whereas with effective treatment, those individuals with mental health conditions can recover and lead full, productive lives. And whereas each business, school, government agency, healthcare provider, organization, and citizen shares the burden of mental health problems and has a responsibility to promote mental wellness and support prevention efforts. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood does hereby proclaim May 2017 as National Mental Health Awareness Month and calls upon the citizens of the village to recommit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of mental health, educate our citizens on the steps they can take to protect their mental health, and recognize the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental health conditions.
Thank you, Councilwoman Walsh. And now Councilwoman Walsh will also be reading May's Older Americans Month proclamation.
Thank you. Whereas Ridgewood includes a community of older Americans who deserve recognition for their contributions to our nation. And whereas the Village of Ridgewood recognizes that older adults are trailblazers, advocating for themselves, their peers, and their communities, paving the way for future generations. And whereas the Village of Ridgewood is committed to raising awareness about issues facing older Americans and helping all individuals to thrive in communities of their choice for as long as possible. And whereas we appreciate the value of inclusion and support in helping older adults successfully contribute to and benefit from their communities. And whereas our community can provide opportunities to enrich the lives of individuals of all ages by promoting and engaging in activity, wellness, and social involvement, emphasizing home and community-based services that support independent living, ensuring community members can benefit from the contributions and experience of older adults. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood does hereby proclaim May 2017 as Older Americans Month and encourages every resident to take time this month to acknowledge older adults and the people who serve them as powerful and vital individuals who greatly contribute to our community.
Thank you, Councilwoman. The next proclamation for June, recognized as LGBT Pride Month, will be read by me. Whereas the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood recognizes the human rights of individuals everywhere and embraces the rights of all people to live their lives freely in a world that is accepting and respectful. And whereas for far too long, members of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender community have been marginalized, dehumanized, and demoralized for merely living in a manner consistent with our own nation's fundamental beliefs of life, liberty, and freedom for all. Whereas sadly and regrettably, persons of the LGBT community have faced prejudice and discrimination, and many have had to hide in order to keep their jobs or to live safely in their communities. And whereas the Village Council recognizes there are still many challenges before us, and we must stand together, firm in our resolve, to reject acts of prejudice, acts of hatred and violence against any person for any reason. And whereas hatred, bigotry, and intolerance have no place in this society, and it is incumbent upon village leaders and all residents to foster greater empathy, understanding, and caring for one another. And whereas members of the LGBT community have made important and lasting contributions to our village, our state, our nation, and the world by enriching our lives and helping to encourage and develop a more inclusive and thoughtful world. And whereas members of the LGBT community include our acquaintances, co-workers, neighbors, friends, loved ones, family members, and each and every one deserves respect, understanding, compassion, and the right to love whoever they choose. And whereas the Village of Ridgewood embraces all of our brothers and sisters, appreciating our similarities while celebrating our differences. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood does hereby proclaim June 2017 as LGBT Pride Month and encourages village residents to observe this month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities that celebrate our diversity and recognize the need to embrace all members of our community with love and acceptance. Thank you. And with that, we will be moving on to the proclamation for June 2nd as National Gun Violence Awareness Day, and that will be read by Councilman, it is you? Councilman Hache. I can read my handwriting.
Whereas each day 91 Americans are killed by gun violence and countless others are injured, with Americans being 25 times more likely to be murdered with guns than people in other developed countries. And whereas protecting public safety in the communities they serve is one of the highest responsibilities of the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood, which is why support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from dangerous people. And whereas June 2nd, 2017 would have been the 20th birthday of Adia Pendleton, a teenager who marched in President Obama's second inaugural parade and was tragically shot and killed just weeks later. To help honor Adia and the 91 Americans whose lives are cut short and the countless survivors who are injured by shootings every day, a national coalition of organizations has designated June 2nd, 2017 as National Gun Violence Awareness Day. And whereas the idea was inspired by a group of Adia's friends who commemorate her life by wearing orange. They chose this color because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters when out in the woods, as orange is also a color that symbolizes the value of human life. And whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands, as well as encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our children safe. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood does hereby proclaim June 2nd, 2017 as National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the Village of Ridgewood, and encourages all citizens to support the efforts in their community to prevent tragic effects of gun violence and to honor and value human lives.
Thank you, Councilman Hache. And the Deputy Mayor will read the proclamation recognizing Emergency Medical Services Week.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas only a third of Americans rate their households as being very well prepared for a medical emergency, and whereas the members of emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas emergency medical service teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical service providers by titling EMS Strong, Always in Service as the theme of the 2017 Emergency Medical Services Week. And whereas the title EMS Strong, Always in Service conveys an incredibly powerful message about the EMS profession and the honorable men and women who serve within it. And whereas the designation of Emergency Medical Services Week will serve to educate the residents of the Village of Ridgewood about injury prevention and how to respond to a medical emergency. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood does hereby proclaim the week of May 21st, 2017 through May 27th, 2017 as Emergency Medical Services Week, and encourages the community to support Ridgewood Emergency Medical Services and all of their programs, ceremonies, and activities.
Okay, so we're just going to take a brief moment. I know everybody's here for a lot tonight, and we're going to ask our EMT members all to come on up. You could give that phone to somebody. Come on up. We're going down for a photo op. Hello? Is it on? Can you hear me? So I just want everyone to, we're going to ask Tony Lillo, the chief of our EMT services, to just say a few words and a little bit of overview about what our all-volunteer EMT squad does for our village. I just want everyone to know that I just probably want to ask somebody on the team if they'll know, within the past 2 weeks, the EMTs have been to my dad's house twice. And so nobody understands the value and the dedication and the compassion, understanding, and commitment of our EMT services as much as I do. So I first want to say thank you, everybody, and he'll be home tomorrow.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for myself and my team, and there's a lot more missing. A couple people had calls tonight that they just got toned down. To serve the village of Ridgewood and the surrounding communities. We're happy to do it. We take pleasure in doing it. And just to let you know, I mean, we do roughly about 1,700 calls a year, close to 20 to 21,000 hours worth of donated time to the village. And again, it's our privilege and our pleasure to assist the village any way we can. Thank you.
Recognizing, I feel so odd, May 21st, 2017 through May 27th, 2017 as Emergency Medical Services Week, and we really thank all of you for your time and commitment to our village. Squeeze in.
Squeeze in tight. Okay.
Are those readers I see?
All right, so we are going to just shift our schedule a little bit here and move to before we do a resolution for the pride flag, I just would like to read a brief statement and point out something. Okay. Last week, Village Council discussed a request by the Community Relations Advisory Board to fly the pride flag on the flagpole located at the front of Village Hall. While last year the Deputy Mayor and I fully supported flying the flag on the halyard in June, the flag was removed after just one day. The request this year was for the entire month of June and would require the removal of the prisoner of war missing in action flag. It would overlap with Flag Month and Flag Day on June 14th. Furthermore, as a result of a newly adopted ordinance specifically relating to signs, flags, and banners on village property, we carefully considered the best and most appropriate location to display the pride flag to ensure placement would withstand any legal objector challenge and to avoid setting precedent. As Village Council discussed the pride flag, one member of council pressed other members for a vote. Because the meeting was a work session, a vote would not be legally permissible. Sorry. Also, just prior to the discussion, a member of the Ridgewood Police Department entered the room to advise me of an urgent family matter. Upon seeing the police officer appear for a second time, I tried to move the discussion along and nearing the end, attempted to wrap things up so I could leave. In doing so, perhaps I was remiss in not continuing to the option of Van Ness Square public forum space. I left Village Hall and drove to a hospital and did not return home until 3 a.m. That morning, my first order of business was to address the possibility of Van Ness Square, and did so via email with the entire Village Council copied. Although some see the pride flag as political, others do not. While some feel only the American flag should be flown at Village Hall, others do not. While some see not doing something someone wants as bigotry and intolerance, we do not. While neither Glenrock or Ridgewood will be flying the pride flag at Borough Hall or Village Hall, for some reason, this village council has been attacked, vilified, and bullied. With comments taken out of context, council members have been called intolerant, bigots, haters, homophobes, cowards, disgraceful, and more. Sad, but ironic. The truth is, it does not matter who one cares about, so long as you care. It doesn't matter who one embraces, as long as you embrace. It doesn't matter who one loves, as long as you love. The pride flag will be displayed at Van Ness Square at Memorial Park proudly. Similarly, Glenrock will display the flag at Wild Memorial Park. For the record, and I know I just said my father was in the emergency room twice with the EMT, this particular hospital visit resulted in 7 pounds, 8 ounces. It's a boy. So we're going to move to a resolution first.
Okay. Whereas the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood recognizes the human rights of individuals everywhere and embraces the desire of all people, including those members of our community, to live their lives freely in a world that is accepting and respectful. And whereas the pride flag symbolizes equality and is represented by 6 bands of color, creating a beautiful rainbow designed to promote love, respect, and inclusion. And whereas those 6 color bands are representative of all things good, with red for life and sexuality, orange for healing and friendship, yellow for sunlight, viability, and energy, green for serenity and nature, blue for harmony and artistry, and representing the human spirit, the color violet. And whereas inclusion of all members of society can only serve to enrich our lives and helps to encourage and develop a kinder and more thoughtful world. And whereas the pride flag represents members of the LGBT community, including our acquaintances, co-workers, neighbors, friends, loved ones, and family members. And whereas the Village of Ridgewood embraces all of our brothers and sisters and wishes for all to enjoy the right to love, respect, understanding, and compassion. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, celebrates the display of the pride flag during and for the month of June 2017, and permits the display to be located in the northwest corner area of Memorial Park at Van Ness Square, and resolves to display the pride flag for all of June 2017 in recognition of LGBT Pride Month. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Okay. Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton?
Yes. Now, just before we finish with that, I just wanted to point the piece of artwork out on the table. And I wanted to thank all the residents who actually have called and stated their support. And I especially wanted to thank the artist, Amy Dolich, who, this was dropped off at my house today, and first I was told I had to return it, and then I was told it's a gift, so I'm really so happy because I just love it. Amy has no restraint when it comes to color, and she's given our local landmarks a bath in every hue of the rainbow. Here you'll find Village Hall, the library, the theater, the duck pond, iconic buildings, the charming downtown, ever coming and going, New York City commuters, fireworks, and of course lawn chairs that line the streets leading up to the 4th of July parade every year. So this particular piece is apropos to today, and it really just supports everything that we believe in and being inclusive. It actually made its debut at the Ridge School fundraiser in May of 2017, with proceeds going to the special programs within that particular school. And in that spirit, Amy is contributing a portion of each print sales to the art and music programs of our village schools. So I just really wanted to share it because Amy dropped this off, and I just thought it was beautiful and really reflective of tonight. So I thank everyone, and we'll be seeing that flag at Van Ness. Okay. Moving on.
Okay, we'll now move on to the scoping hearing for the Green Acres diversion on South Broad Street. I'm going to give an explanation of what this hearing is about, so that those in the audience who are unaware
Are we doing comments or no?
will understand.
Comments?
The property known as the South Broad Street Playground has been owned by the village since at least the 1940s, and there is no detailed information available. However, a 1967 village engineer's map shows that a variety of equipment was installed in the park, including a tower slide, a merry-go-round, a jungle gym, a sandbox, swings, seesaw, full-size basketball and handball courts, and an open-air pavilion. It was described as having provided neighborhood families with open space to meet friends and play in a safe outdoor environment. In the early 1970s, Ridgewood received Green Acres grant funding for the purchase of the Grove Street property. At that time, a listing of all open space in Ridgewood called the Recreation Open Space Inventory, or ROSI, was required so that all open space and parkland in Ridgewood would be preserved forever. In 1974, Ridgewood experienced some dangerous and unsafe behavior in the neighborhood playground on South Broad Street. This property was purchased with Green Acres funds way back when it was purchased. Due to the dangerous and unsafe behavior, the Ridgewood Village Council, at the behest of Broad Street residents, evaluated the facts and conditions of the playground. The result of the investigation was to recommend closing the playground in 1974. In 1981 and 82, articles found in the Ridgewood News showed that the land was sold to the Bergen County Housing Authority to be used for affordable housing. Not knowing about the earlier Green Acres funding of the South Broad Street Playground, Ridgewood made an initial request to Green Acres for grant funding in the year 2000 for the Habernickel property purchase. Green Acres committed to fund half of the certified market value of the property. In 2011, 11 years later, Ridgewood received notice that there was a diversion situation since a property on the 1970s Rossi was sold, and that's obviously the playground. Green Acres has advised the village of the procedures required by law to correct this situation. In the meantime, Green Acres has held up $750,000 in grant payments due to Ridgewood. Ridgewood is required to hold a public scoping hearing to advise residents of the situation and to listen to their comments. Following that scoping hearing, the village will submit a pre-application and then a final application to be processed by Green Acres and the New Jersey legislature. In addition, Ridgewood will have to acquire 2 times the size of the land that was diverted, or 1.9 acres of land which must be purchased. The purchase of new property will satisfy the diversion and allow a new playground to be built on that property. The Ridgewood Open Space Committee in past years has recommended the concept of purchasing land adjacent to existing parks in order to increase the benefits of the expanded open space. Therefore, the location of the purchased land can be in any area of Ridgewood that meets the Green Acres criteria and receives final approval from the state of New Jersey. The village is currently exploring several options for the purchase of this additional property, and I'm sure that we will find an acceptable piece of property within the next several months. So that's the explanation, and then Mayor, I'll have you open the hearing. Before we open the hearing, I do want to just mention, there was a notice to the Planning Board, the Ridgewood Environmental Advisory Committee, Green Acres, 21 certified letters to neighbors within 200 feet of the property, all on April 5th. In addition, these letters were also hand-delivered to the property owners of the low and moderate income housing. There was a legal public notice about the hearing in the Ridgewood News on April 7th. It was also posted on the village website on April 7th. On April 12th, a 4-foot by 4-foot sign was installed on the South Broad Street Playground site at the site of the present moderate low-income housing. Ridgewood News had a display ad about the hearing on April 14th, and the Ridgewood Open Space Committee, it was presented to them on April 20th. So.
Okay. Just before I open the public hearing, I just wanted to let everyone know, public comment is on the next page it's just a few moments away. In any event, the public hearing on the diversion of Green Acres property is now open.
Just public comment
No.
This is on the scoping
Not yet.
hearing.
This is a public hearing.
Okay, the scoping hearing only.
Is that good?
Okay, just state your name and
Yeah.
address.
Andrew Lowry, 441 Hawthorne Place. I'm a co-clerk of the Ridgewood Friends Quaker meeting, and I'm a member of its leadership. Over 2 years ago, I was appointed to represent the Quaker meeting in discussions with the village on this issue. As many of you know, we've had discussions with the village over the past couple of years regarding the potential sale of part of our property, which is directly across the street from the former South Broad Street playground.
Right.
We continue to believe that a playground in the neighborhood near the former South Street playground is the right thing for the community. Our comments have been submitted in writing, so I will just confirm that we are open to continuing discussions with the village. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Ellie Gruber, 229 South Irving. I'm really here as a co-chair of the League of Women Voters of New Jersey Natural Resources Committee, where we have a very strong position against diversion of land purchased under Green Acres. The purpose of the diversion was actually okay, because one of the parts of the DEP rules for diversion was that if it fulfilled a public need, which was in fact the low-cost housing, the affordable house project, that part was great. And in no way, this was thrown to you. You had nothing to do with this whole thing, I just want to say. But one of the other parts of diversion regulations by the DEP is that they want the replacement land to be reasonably equal to what was taken away. And you had a playground there, and I agree, it probably was a mess and all that stuff, but the neighborhood had a playground. The neighborhood should get a replacement playground. To have a playground 2 miles away, 1 mile away, does no good to that neighborhood. And I know kids will be kids. There's a lot of playgrounds in Ridgewood, and I think you could find broken glass at almost every one of them. So it's not unique to that playground. But I really urge you to consider replacing it. It may not be absolutely required, but I think it would be good policy for this town to replace it in the neighborhood from which it came. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie. Okay. No one else? I move the public hearing be closed.
Second?
Okay, hold on 1 second. Hache,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes.
Okay.
I move the clerk read ordinance 3592 by title on second reading and the public hearing thereon be open.
Second.
Hache,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes, will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3592?
Calendar year 2017, ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limit and to establish a cap bank, NJSA 40A:4-45.14.
Okay, I move the public hearing be, I'm sorry, the public hearing is now open. Cap bank.
This is on the
Public
cap bank
hearing.
ordinance.
It's a public hearing, it's okay. I'll give you the heads up at that point, okay. I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Hache,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes.
I move that ordinance 3592 be adopted on second reading and final publication as required by law.
Second.
Hache,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
Voight,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes.
At this time, we have the 2017 budget hearing. I'm going to have Bob Rooney, our CFO, come up on the dais, and I know Steve Sanzari is going to help us with our PowerPoint presentation.
I saw the mouse. I didn't know what the heck. Oh, I'm sorry. You know, this is just a little bit of a different schedule because of our budget hearing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We have an order of business, and so public comments will happen after the budget adoption resolution 17-127. It's just a different order of business because of this budget hearing and two different types of public hearings. They're not public hearings on ordinances. They're public hearings on different. Okay, I'm sorry.
Ready? Okay. So we'll start with the overview of the 2017 budget. This is a long process. We start the process in September, October of the previous year. We have hearings with the various department directors, and then they're held with the CFO and the treasurer. It's then refined. Then there are additional hearings with the CFO, the treasurer, and the village manager, and then it's refined further. And then, in addition, there are budget hearings before the village council, which are open public meetings and are televised. And then there's further refinement for the final budget document. So that's a very brief overview of the budget process. So the first slide, municipal percent tax increase, a historical perspective. As you can see, the highest in recent years was in 2007, and with the lowest being 2013 and 14, where we had a 0% tax increase. And in 2013 and 14, that was right after Hurricane Sandy, and the village was receiving FEMA money for Hurricane Sandy. The last payment of FEMA money was in 2016, and that was the lowest amount of money received in the reimbursements. In the 2 years of the 0% tax increase, it caused the village to have to raise taxes in order to, perhaps even higher than they would have been, and that's in order to maintain our aging infrastructure as well as maintaining the many services which our residents are accustomed to receiving. We've increased revenue through additional shared services contracts with Washington Township for vehicle maintenance, but it does not compare to the FEMA money which was received by the village during the years from 2013-14 all the way through 16. On the next slide, the operating and capital budgets were presented to the village council. $48.9 million is the operating budget. The capital budget's $7.3 million in general capital, $5.7 million for the water utility, and $0.2 million for the parking utility. The overall budget will produce a 2% municipal tax increase, which is $79.46 annually, on an average assessed home value of $696,093. The estimated outstanding bonds and notes, $38.5 million on 12/31/16 versus $34.5 million on 12/31/17. This will be after paying down the principal in 2017. Revenues and expenses are up approximately 2.2% from the prior year. This budget will show enhanced services in the water department. We'll finalize the first stages of public education on conservation and enact new related ordinances for all uses. We will continue compliance with all US EPA and NJDEP orders. We're restructuring our customer service and public relations. We're rehabilitating our water tanks, and we're improving our infrastructure. The parking utility continually will evaluate the parking conditions to ensure optimum parking for residents. Budget for parking enforcement officers, 1 full-time and 1 part-time. A pilot kiosk program at Chestnut Street Lot. Integration of electronic license plate reader, and possible pilot shuttle service program for CBD employees. Public safety will fill the available firefighter positions, will fill the police department positions, completes a new police scheduling system, which I understand is underway, replace vehicles and equipment, and improve OEM emergency communication database, website, and lightning detection system. In technology, we'll continue to expand the village website and to provide more useful information for leaf removal, snow removal, and water conservation. We're expanding the Wi-Fi network throughout the village. We're enhancing the IT system through the fiber network, the Wi-Fi access points, the VMX system, the PC users, and spatial data logic software. In operations, we're in the process of settling the blue-collar, white-collar, and supervisory contracts. We'll begin contract discussions with the police and fire departments and also establish a shared service agreement with Washington Township for vehicle maintenance. We do have challenges, which include the negotiations of the new union contracts, the defense of tax appeals and appraisal costs, the outsourcing of Lakeview Compost Facility, police overtime, legal fees, compliance with U.S. EPA and NJDEP water requirements, and use of one-time revenues. Under opportunities, we have the expansion of the technology platform, new tax ratables due to development, availability of fund surpluses, shared services agreement for vehicle maintenance, and an enhanced website for resident usage. I'll now turn it over to Bob Rooney.
So the next slide shows the comparison of the budget presented for adoption tonight from 2017 to 2016. Total appropriations for this year, $48,901,810, supported by revenues from operating surplus, miscellaneous revenues, receipts from delinquent taxes, and a 2% increase in the municipal tax rate of amount of $32,475,844. The tax on an average house assessed at $696,093 is approximately $4,164 for 2017, as compared to $4,085 on a house of approximately $3,000 less than the valuation. Next slide shows the pie chart of the sources of revenue that we have for this year. Largest percentage, of course, comes from property taxes. Surplus is relatively small, about 10% increase from last year. Local revenues are flat, state aid is flat, slight increase in other revenues from construction costs and miscellaneous revenues, and a slight increase anticipated in receipts from delinquent taxes. The pie chart for the operating expenses, again, I know it's an eye test, but unfortunately you can only get so much on a screen. So anyway, it shows increase in certain departments, such as shared services, deferred charges and statutory expenditures for PERS costs and healthcare costs. It also shows reductions in receipts for uncollected taxes, landfill and solid waste, municipal court, and construction code officials. And lastly, the famous tax dollar, as to where your money goes. The amount there for municipal is the only one that's of an accurate number, because the other two are estimates predicated on the anticipated increase in county of approximately 2% and school district of approximately 3%. And that's how your tax dollars get divided.
Okay. So let's go to council comments. We'll start with Councilman Voigt.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one very basic question. We're raising, the amount we're raising for taxation through property taxes has actually gone down from 2017. Help me understand that when we raised it 2%.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
The amount to be raised by taxation for 2017 versus 2016 looks like it's gone down from the prior year. Is that right or is that wrong? I'm looking at another spreadsheet that I have.
If you look at, I'll go back to the slide. You raised taxes last year of $31,839,932.
Yeah.
And this year you're raising $32,475,844, which is an increase.
Okay, my apologies. I'm looking at another spreadsheet. So I also think there's some opportunities here for us to raise some additional funds through some of the miscellaneous revenues that we have. One is ambulance billings, which we're going to be looking at, and another one is fees and permits. which has been relatively flat for a long period of time, and there may be some opportunities there looking at relative to other towns. So hopefully we can potentially increase on those particular revenue items. That's all I have, so thank you.
Just to clarify,
Yes.
anytime you have increases in revenue, obviously we have to have an ordinance that's going to change that fee, because we're only limited to what we collect in cash. So I understand what you want to do. I think it's a great idea. You have my support in doing it.
Good.
But there's a process, obviously, that has to be followed to get there.
Understood. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Seaton?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to start out by thanking the staff and Bob Rooney and Heather and Steve and everybody in staff who participated in the budget. It's a long process. Sometimes it could be a difficult process when you have to cut and keep cutting and keep cutting. So I think it's a very good budget. It represents a lot of needs that we have to address in the village. It'll hopefully help with the appearance of our town a little bit more. Some people might like to characterize this as a massive tax hike, but compared to last year, the tax increase was 1.6%. So this year it's 2%. So the massive tax hike is a whopping 0.4%. And if you looked at the BLS to see what the current CPI is, the rate of inflation, it's running at 2.4%. So although it is a 2% tax increase, it's still below the rate of inflation. And things are difficult for everyone. Healthcare costs go up, materials go up, wages, benefits, everything seems to go up. And unfortunately, we have to meet those challenges. But I think this represents a fair budget, and I think it's something that we could all be proud of. So thank you, and I'd be happy to support this.
Great, thank you. Councilman Walsh?
My mic on. So I agree with the Deputy Mayor. I want to thank all of the employees in the village who actually prepare the budgets before they even get to us, and that they have to work within their own teams to, trim things down before it even gets to us. And I know that that's often, a challenge for them. When we get it, then we have to actually look at it and make some other tough decisions, which we did and they did. So this wasn't the final budget weeks ago. This was even pared down even more. So I really appreciate what the employees are doing. I do agree also that it's a fair budget. I think that just statistically, we're really on a trajectory with property values, and everything's been going very well. So I think for this council, we're going to have to really take a look at what's going to happen next year, because I personally don't see it going up. I think we might have some challenges that way, especially with the appraisals and the tax appeals. So I think this is fair. I think that it's a compromise, but I think it's fair. Thanks.
Councilman Hache?
I have nothing to add, but I don't think we can say enough, just how much work this all took. And I know it was a Herculean effort. I know we were here, many meetings. We enjoyed some good sandwiches during that time. But it was tremendous, amount of work. A lot of the asks, I think, were very reasonable. I don't think anybody came with ridiculous asks. I think what we pared down was very thoughtfully done. I'm very encouraged by the fact, just to reiterate what Deputy Mayor said, we need to kind of start investing back into our village. And I'm very encouraged by the fact that we're setting money aside to invest back into our central business district. I firmly believe that we need to make an investment there in order to increase the percentage that the CBD will contribute to the tax base, which in turn will reduce the tax base on homeowners. So thank you for this well-done budget. Thank you, Bob.
Great. So I, too, would like to thank all the members of our village staff, Steve Sanzari, our treasurer, Bob Rooney, our CFO, and our village manager, Heather Maylander, and all the heads of our departments for all the time, energy, effort that's been put into this budget. And just a little understanding of the process. I think we started this in January with some meetings, and into February and March. And we were meeting with this budget, I have to say, sometimes they were Friday nights, going late until all late hours. The council members and staff members gave up their Friday nights. Sometimes it was a Monday night, Saturday. So there were a lot of meetings on this. And some issue that came up recently, curiously, it was in 2 letters. One letter that went to the editor, and a second letter that was sent to our village manager questioning transparency, and that the budget had not been posted online in a timely manner, and that somehow there was some hiding something or transparency. But what happens with the budget, and it's the same every single year, is that after we went through all of this process and cut down and shaved back, and everybody felt a little pain, we then have to take that budget and legally introduce it here at this level. And I believe that was April 12th this year. Not April 11th, right? I think it was April 12th. Okay, great. And after we introduce it, legally, it has to be reviewed by our auditors, and then it has to go to the state in their budget format with all the proper documentations attached to it. And only after the state completes their review can it be uploaded to the village website, resulting in an April 27th publishing, uploading to the village website. It is the same, almost incredibly identical process and timing of the 2016 budget, 2015 budget, 2016, April 11th, and it was uploaded on April 27th. So I just kind of wanted to let everybody know that there are a lot of meetings, and it's a process that we follow, and we're committed to transparency, and this was really a lot of work, and I think it's a budget to be proud of, and we appreciate everyone's work on it. So thank you. And with that, I'll have to find my place a moment. Okay. Does that?
There you go.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, great. Council comments. Okay,
Public
so
hearing.
I'm reading will the clerk please read the title of the 2017 budget?
The 2017 general operating budget for the Village of Ridgewood, Bergen County, New Jersey.
Okay. The public hearing on the 2017 budget is now open. Is budget question? You come on up to the microphone, and please state your name and address for the record.
Yulia Landwehr, 22 Pershing Avenue.
I'm sorry?
22 Pershing Avenue.
And your name?
Yulia Landwehr.
Okay.
I have a question to the CFO about this calculation of real estate taxes. The sample given is 696,000 assessed value, and the tax is 4,100. But when I look at the brochure received in the mail and calculate according to the rate, it should be like 17,000 instead of 4,000.
So the CFO can answer that. I think most of us can answer that. That's a tough one. So why don't you?
That is just the municipal share. The calculation of the $4,000 on that assessed value is the municipal tax alone. It has nothing to do with the school or the county.
So Bob, do you think it would be helpful just to go back to that slide? Can we do that? So so you see that on this particular slide, you'll see that the smallest slice of the pie goes to the county, Bergen County, at 10.93%. The next smallest piece goes to the village, and it's a very small part of your tax amount, and that's only 23.78%. The biggest piece goes to our school board taxes, and that's not something that we talk about here. That's actually at the school board level, so you would have to attend those meetings, and I believe they may have had some meetings and presentations thus far, but that bigger part, the almost better than 65% of it is, so we won't talk about that. We're only talking about the $4,000.
Yeah, it just was misleading because you're giving like the real estate tax would be like 4,000.
But if you want to send us an email and your tax bill, I think it's broken down on your tax bill, but we're happy to offer any information and insight that we can.
Yeah, I looked at my tax bill, and according to the rates displayed, it's still higher than it should be. for some reason. I don't know how.
So why don't we just shoot us an email and a copy of that, your block and lot number, all the information, and we'll take a look at it, okay?
Okay,
Great. You have to get the email right off the website.
okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Good evening. Evan Whites, 423 Oak Street. About a year ago, you all appointed me chairman of the Financial Advisory Committee. You also appointed 6 of the 7 current members. I'm here speaking on their behalf. We have not been kept in the loop on this. There was a lack of transparency for us, and we were not allowed to play an active role in this budget. More importantly, there was a lack of transparency for the public. We see several issues that we tried to raise but have not really had addressed yet.
I'm sorry, Evan, would you be kind enough to speak into the microphone so we can hear you?
Sure. There were several issues that we raised that were not, in our opinion, adequately addressed. Most importantly, what most people don't know is that you can only raise the taxes by 2% without going to referendum. So what this budget does is it raises taxes by the most amount, well, by the most allowable by law. This is also done during the same year you raise parking rates, which of course adversely affects most Ridgewood residents who commute. In order to keep the tax increase at only the maximum amount of 2%, there are several things in here that cause us concern. First, you're using surplus funds to balance the budget out, instead of using those funds for a rainy day fund or to save that money. What this does is this brings our rainy day or surplus funds down by about $500,000 to the lowest level in years. Secondly, you authorized yourself over $70 million in authorized debt. To be clear, this is not actual debt. What you've done is sort of increase the limit on your credit card. You haven't spent it yet, but we do have some concerns as to why you are authorizing so much debt for yourselves if you do in fact pass this budget. Finally, in order to meet the 2% maximum tax increase, you did a 3% across the board cut on all proposed budgets. The better way to do this, in our opinion, is to go line by line. It's a very difficult job finding efficiencies and savings in the budget. Instead of coming in with an axe, you should use a scalpel. The idea here is that you find things that don't affect or minimally affect people's lives, instead of coming in and saying 3% across the board to all the budget heads off of what they've proposed. What this also does is give them incentive next year, the folks who actually write the budget, to really come with unrealistic numbers next year, which will make it even harder to come up with a better budget. There are very few things I think that this council, or responsibilities this council has, and to be good stewards of our funds, be good stewards of our resources. We think it's best to relook at this budget, to have more transparency for the public, and to simply do a better job. I thank all of you for your service. I know this is a tough job, but quite simply, we could do better here.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? So I will ask, do you want to speak to that, our CFO?
Well, if no one else is going to speak, we should close the public hearing.
All right. Well,
We
I
can
know.
comment afterwards.
one more.
Okay.
John Kavanaugh, 770 Norman Drive. And just so you know, I'm on the Financial Advisory Committee. I just came on it. You all appointed me. I voted for each and every one of you, so I'm on your side. So please take this. I attended some of the preliminary budget hearings. I saw how much time you put in on this. I understand it was a tremendous amount of time. My only criticism and suggestion is to look at what Bergen County did, look at what the Ridgewood Board of Education did. Both of those organizations published their budget and the tax increase, and then had public hearings. Bergen County had 4. The Ridgewood Board of Education had 2 public hearings, solely devoted to answer the public's questions and taking their comments on the budget. The council published, as you said, by law, at the end of April, the first budget hearing, and the only budget hearing is at 9 o'clock at night, and that's just, if you've got a good budget, be proud of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. If there's no other public input, I move the public hearing on the 2017 budget be closed.
Second.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton?
Yes.
Okay. I do want to make one comment, and I know Mr. Rooney will probably make some comments as well. It wasn't, the 3% across the board was after each individual department had been looked at several times individually, and we had gone line by line. And then we found that in order to get where we wanted to be, it needed to be, we needed an additional 3% from the department directors. And they very they also were very circumspect in deciding where that 3% further reduction would be. But each one of them could tell you that we do go line by line multiple times. As I mentioned, there were multiple meetings before it even went to the council. The other thing I do want to mention is, I understand that the public hearing is at a public meeting, and that doesn't begin till 8 o'clock at night. However, at each and every budget work session, there's an opportunity for public comment. There's an opportunity for public comment at every single meeting. And in fact, we did have one person from the public who did comment at one of our budget hearings. And those were held, most of them started between 5:30 and 6 o'clock at night. So it wasn't as late. So you could have come anytime.
They were all televised as well.
They were all televised as well.
And available on YouTube.
And you can also come to any public meeting that the village council holds at any time during the budget season and make comments on the budget. So I just wanted to point that out as well. Perhaps, Mr. Rooney, you could talk about the surplus?
I had a quick question.
Sure.
Wasn't it the Financial Advisory Committee that recommended raising commuter passes to $1,500?
Yes.
It was, actually.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that.
Well, actually, it wasn't, Mike. It was, I apologize, it was 1,000. It wasn't 1,500, so.
Okay. Just let me jump on that, because I do want to point something out. You know, we were in receipt of a letter from the Financial Advisory Committee, and the fact is that had anyone read the letter to the editor from our former village manager, they would have had the content of the letter from the FAC, because it was remarkably similar. I want to speak about the increase on the parking, the RPP passes that Mr. Weitz pointed out. The RPPs were raised to $1,000 at the recommendation of the Financial Advisory Committee. I think for some of us it was painful, but we thought about that and thought, well, this was to promote more premium spaces. We kept $750 parking passes to encourage people to walk, to use underutilized parking lots more effectively. And then we capped the number of parking passes that were actually sold. We allocated spaces for shoppers and diners, making it so much easier now to stop in at Sook or I guess anywhere, town and country, anywhere you want to go shop, you can actually find a parking space now. So the allocations to commuters, shoppers, diners, even though we messed it up in the beginning, we acknowledge it was allocations were off, but once we tweaked them and fixed them, it's actually become highly effective. Furthermore, we made spaces available for employee, CBD employees at a discounted rate. I'm sorry. Interesting. We allowed employees for the CBD to park at a discounted rate in the Cottage Place lot, freeing up spaces on more desirable parking spaces on the street and in the lots nearest to where shoppers want to be and diners want to eat. So in effect, we actually have created a redistribution process that has been effective. But once again, the $1,000 increase was at the recommendation of the FAC. They wanted across the board. We decided $750 and the $750. And this was really to encourage the use of the more underutilized parking lots, and that's been effective. And now, Bob, if you don't mind, maybe you'd like to speak to the anticipated debt number, or you want to speak about surplus?
I'll speak about both.
Okay, good.
Just to start this process, I came on board in May of 15, and one of the first things I shared with council was my rule that I will not provide information to third parties until council has an opportunity to review it. I had a conversation with our auditors. I've been an auditor myself. I know how this works. So that's the rule. When I got on board the FAC and I first met with them, I instructed them exactly what that would be. You will not see anything prior to my sharing it with council. So the process this year, I explained that again, and after each council meeting, I emailed to the FAC a copy of all the budget information, the same as council got. Sat down with them at a meeting and went over and said, this is what it is. If you have any questions, have any direction that you want to take, I instructed them of a couple of critical areas that they may want to look at. So transparency was there. They had everything that council had. Okay? Moving on. As far as the surplus goes, the amount of surplus we use in the budget is consistent with the practices that the village has used over the past several years. Last year, the village adopted a policy for best practices as to limitations in the surplus use, as to when, if there's a shortfall or if there's an excess, how that would be applied to reduce taxation. That resolution is 16-114, in case anybody's interested in reading it. So we do comply with the surplus policy. Regarding taking the tax increase to a limit, if you look at page sheet BI in the budget as advertised, as made available to the public, the state's format, it explains the calculation that we have to go through to determine whether we are in accordance with the budget cap and in accordance with the tax levy cap. In both cases, we are short of where we need to, where we'd be allowed to go. So that 2% increase is not taking us to the limit. You don't just take a flat 2%. There are adjustments that you have to make, which are delineated in the explanatory statement. That's all I had. I didn't know if there's something else you wanted.
Okay. I just want to say that members of the Financial Advisory Committee, Mr. Kavanaugh, we know, we appreciate the service of volunteers to the Financial Advisory Committee. However, will not allow any committee to be politicized by any one individual or maybe a few individuals by any stretch of the imagination. And it just can't be. We work very hard here. We're diligent. We're committed to the village. And the allegations of lack of transparency are just meritless. And so we'll move on from there. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Did you? Oh,
sure. So this year, we put in front of council ordinances for general debt increase of approximately $7 million. Last year, that number was $6 million. If you look in the budget, there's a worksheet that shows the sources of those fundings. Last year, we anticipated canceling approximately $1.7 million of funded ordinances back to surplus that could be used for other purposes going forward. That was the result of ordinances being approved by prior administrations where the money was authorized, bonded, but never spent. Moving forward, $7 million authorization does not incur debt that would be raised in the budget until bonds or notes are issued. So until you spend the money, you don't have to raise any debt as far as bonds and notes go. But the technical term of authorized on issue is basically what the $7 million deals with right now. And again, it's consistent with last year's.
okay, great. So with that, we'll do the resolution.
Yes. Whereas the 2017 current fund budget as introduced contains a 2017 anticipated revenue and appropriation entitled Grant PSE&G Tree Survey Program. Such program being dedicated to supporting a tree maintenance program that provides information and guidance to the village on preserving healthy trees and plantings of new trees. And whereas such grant has been canceled by PSE&G, and whereas it is necessary to formally cancel the anticipated revenue and its offsetting appropriation from the 2017 current fund budget as introduced. Now therefore be it resolved that the following anticipated revenue appropriation balances be canceled. Grant title, PSE&G Tree Survey Program, Grant 2017, amount canceled, revenue $20,000, appropriation $20,000. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton?
Yes.
Be it resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood, County of Bergen, that the budget hereinbefore set forth is hereby adopted and shall constitute an appropriation for the purposes stated of the sums therein set forth as appropriations, and authorization of the amount of $32,475,844 for municipal purposes, $284,000 open space recreation farmland and historic preservation trust fund levy, and $2,144,846 maintenance of free public library. Summary of revenues. General revenues surplus anticipated, $3,630,000. Miscellaneous revenues anticipated, $9,881,120. Receipts from delinquent taxes, $750,000. Minimum library tax, $2,144,846. Amount to be raised by taxation for municipal purposes, $32,475,844. Total revenues, $48,881,810. Summary of appropriations. General appropriations within caps. Operations including contingents, $38,604,982. Deferred charges and statutory expenditures excluded from caps. Operations, total operation excluded from caps, $3,301,611. Capital improvements, $157,000. Municipal debt service, $536,261. Deferred charges, municipal, $53,000. Reserve for uncollected taxes, $1,228,956. Total appropriations, $48,881,810. It is hereby certified that the within budget is a true copy of the budget finally adopted by resolution of the governing body on the 10th day of May, 2017. It is further certified that each item of revenue and appropriation is set forth in the same amount by the same title as appeared in the 2017 approved budget, and all amendments thereto, if any, which have been previously approved by the Director of Local Government Services. And I do want to mention we did get our approval from the state this afternoon, as long as we canceled the PSCNG Tree Survey Program grant, which unfortunately we did not receive. So we're all set to adopt. So may I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Okay. Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton?
Yes.
I would like to thank all the department directors for all your hard work in putting together these budgets, and all the supervisors who helped as well. I really appreciate everything that you've done over these past several months, and before you know it, unfortunately, we'll be starting budget again. But I do thank you for all your hard work, and I appreciate the cost-saving measures that you put into your budgets. Thank you.
Okay, and so now that we've had this captive audience, we'll probably soon lose you all, but we'll go to public comment. So come on up, state your name and address.
3 minutes per person, 40 minutes in total.
Oh, sorry, I didn't say that.
Ann Loving, 342 South Irving Street. I'd like to say something favorable about the former village manager, if you can believe that. She hired Bob Rooney. He is awesome. Whatever it is you're paying him, it's probably not enough. He's amazing. Thank you. Thank you, Bob.
That's on the record.
That was, you really were so clear and transparent. I also do want to say that I was one of several people who attended some of the budget hearings. They were not at 9 o'clock at night. I did speak about Graydon at one of them. I know some other people did as well. So I think that when you're doing the review of the committees that you're working on, you really need to take a close look at that Financial Advisory Committee. It's an ad hoc committee. I think its time is done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Eliza Armstrong. I live at 538 Laurel Road. For starters, I'd like to thank the mayor for being so accessible. I left a message for you last Thursday morning. You had 2 calls in to me before lunchtime, so thank you for that. On our call, we agreed about a lot of things, but we very much disagreed about whether or not the gay pride flag is political. I feel very strongly that it's not. You stated very decisively that it is. When you spoke earlier this evening, you acknowledged that there is a difference of opinions. My concern is that I think the village has set a very dangerous precedent by refusing to fly the flag above Village Hall. You have made a statement that the village feels that the flag is political. We aren't flying it. My understanding is because of the ordinance, as you explained to me, the ordinance that says that we cannot have displays of political statements. So therefore, if we're not willing to fly the gay flag above Village Hall, it's because we have deemed it as a village to be political, because we've shown our willingness to fly other flags, such as the POW MIA flag. So I think it's dangerous to make such statements and to make such official declarations of what is and what is not political, especially when there is such disagreement amongst the residents. I think it's wonderful to have it displayed in Van Ness Square. My concern is that it's ended up in Van Ness Square because of our unwillingness to hang it above Village Hall. Thank you.
Thank you, Eliza.
Mary Taylor, 33 Essex Street, Hackensack, New Jersey. I'm here on behalf of many Ridgewood residents. I have a petition I would like to read into the record. I kindly ask that it does not count as my 3 minutes. Otherwise,
Well, you have 3 minutes, so unfortunately it does.
can I then just hand it to you without saying
You
what
can
it says?
come right here. Come on up. And let's see what you all have. Good, great. Okay. Okay, so
With all due respect, I hope to use 3 minutes to read the petition, and then when the second public comment was available, use those 3 minutes, but unfortunately, that's no longer possible.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you just said.
I'm sorry. With all due respect, I hope to read the petition into the record with the first 3 minutes, and I'm now unable to do that. So understanding that you, Mayor, know what the petition says, and we have already spoken about it, I'm really disappointed that you decided to vote on this issue of the gay flag flying above our town hall without allowing public comment. You decided to, by changing the schedule, eliminate a possibility for conversation.
Okay, all right. All right, so I can't have that, so there's a point of order. We cannot call out from the audience.
Okay. I'm here as representing nearly 200 Ridgewood High School alum that have signed a petition in regards to your decision not to fly the flag above the town hall. This decision is one that has come out of the idea that the gay flag is political, and our petitioners disagree kindly. Mayor, you are aware of this petition, and by voting before public comment, you decided to ignore this petition. The council decided to fly the flag at Van Ness instead of Village Hall under the idea that the rainbow flag is political. With this decision, the council invalidated the experiences of Ridgewood's LGBTQ residents and those who love them. LGBTQ individuals are not political simply by existing, and embracing us as your residents is not political or a partisan statement in any way. Instead, it is the proper way to celebrate LGBTQ Pride Month. Celebrate us with pride, eliminate the confusion, and fully endorse equality and acceptance by flying the flag above the town hall. I understand that it is hard to be counsel in this situation, and I am sorry for the name calling. It is also incredibly hard to be LGBTQ in certain circumstances. As a bisexual, non-binary human, I have experienced plenty of name calling myself. The difference is that you are in a temporary political position, and I am in this life. If you take the long view, the horizon is clear. Love is love is love, and this decision will, I believe, eventually be made by the village. You have the power to make that decision this year, and we, the petitioners, implore you. Unfortunately, you have decided to make another decision tonight without opening for comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kelly Keene. I live at 368 Vesta Court, and I come here tonight as an educator. I'm a professor at Bergen Community College with a very strong LGBTQ community, and I think that seeing the flag as a political statement is incorrect, and by flying it very proudly on our village hall, we send the message of inclusiveness, of love, and of acceptance, and I urge you to reconsider your stance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Evan Weitz, 423 Oak Street. Now I speak in my personal capacity. About a year ago, I ran for village council, and I'm here to thank two of my former opponents, Bernadette Walsh and Jeff Voigt. I was incredibly disappointed to hear some of the comments made at last week's hearing on the equality flag by the mayor, the deputy mayor, and my friend Ramon. I used none of the names, and I condemn those names that were called against you. That's not right either. However, I still remain disappointed in your position and in your comments. Simply put, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, equality and inclusion are not political statements. They're one of those things that make this community great. And I want to thank Jeff and Bernadette again for reminding us of that.
Good evening.
Hello, Marcia Ringel, 250 Ferris Place, Ridgewood. I seem to be reiterating something that Ann Loving said, but I was sitting there planning to say this before she said it. I really feel that the Financial Advisory Committee has more than outlived its purpose. It was created as a breeding ground for candidates for council. It's already done that. It's going to do it again next year. It was created at a time we had no CFO. We have a CFO. I think that CFO is respected and paid well and works every day and has plenty to do, but I don't think he needs this. They have never been properly vetted. They have never had to do the kind of, you know, I can't remember the word, but when you have to show, you know, your background, your financial background, your conflicts of interest and all that, it's just really a mistake, and I think that it should be disbanded as soon as possible. At the very least, it should be just emptied out and started over, but I think we'd be better off without it. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Christian Reinhardt, 359 Corona Place. I just want to thank you for deciding to fly the flag. We had some email exchanges with all of you, I think, and I appreciate the response from some of you on the issue. I just want to state that rainbow flag definitely is not a political statement in any way. It just represents equality, which you kind of very nicely recognized in your speech this evening. So I think that flying the flag in the Van Este Square is definitely making it more visible, but at the same time, really, you should consider that the flag is really not a political statement. So
thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we'll close public comment. I did want to, do you mind if I read this? Because I just think there's some confusion. Yes, okay. The Village Council of Ridgewood has decided against flying the rainbow flag outside of Village Hall during Pride Month this June. The council claimed it does not want to make the flagpole a place for political messages, but the rainbow flag represents equality, unity, and pride, and to call it political is to call the very existence of LGBTQ individuals political. People do not choose whom they love or who they are. Our identities are not political, and neither is acknowledging our diverse existences. The council decision betrays our village values. In addition, a lukewarm compromise to fly the flag at Van Ness appears to have emerged. This is not sufficient. Flying the flag at Van Ness is no substitute for flying it at Village Hall, where it would be properly recognized as an endorsement of inclusivity and equality by the Ridgewood Village. As Ridgewood High School student alum, we may or may not live in Ridgewood, but we will continue to call it home. The council's reluctance to support a symbol of inclusivity is disappointing and embarrassing. We implore the Village Council to fly the flag at Village Hall in a vote that would truly honor equality and acceptance, and it is signed by 176. And I do apologize because I think that we just had a miscommunication here, and I would have handed it back to you. So, but with that, I think we're comfortable with our decision right now. I think Van Ness is the appropriate, best location, and I just don't think that that is any way suggest that anything is embarrassing, non-inclusive, or not caring about our community, or nor should it be embarrassing. But I just think that there have been a lot of comments, and I actually just wanted to thank you guys because you were really the best. You were absolutely lovely through this whole thing, and I have to give you a lot of credit. You were absolutely wonderful. You listened. There was good communication, and I respect that, and I think that was a good thing. So thank you. Okay. All right. Okay, so moving on to the, we're moving on to the village manager's report.
Okay, I want to urge all of our residents to sign up for Swift Reach on the village's website. It's in the box to the right. This will allow you to receive recorded calls for important village matters. In addition, near the bottom of the homepage of the village's website is the e-notice sign up. Once again, this emails residents with important information about village events and matters. So I urge you to sign up for both of those so that you're well informed about various things which may go on in the village, including leaf collection, snow removal, a lot of different things, garbage collection being moved to, the curb at times if it's snowy or icy. So I just urge you to sign up if you're not signed up yet. The Graydon Pool Season membership badges are available for purchase online from Community Pass. If you go to the homepage of the website and click on the picture of Graydon Pool, it will take you to the Community Pass sign up. Graydon Pool office will also be open the next 2 Saturdays, May 13th and May 20th, from 10 a.m. to noon for walk-in badge sales. Graydon Pool Season begins Saturday, June 3rd, and at that time it'll be open from 10 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. May 12th and 13th, the Conservancy for Ridgewood Public Lands is holding a plant sale at Memorial Park at Van Ness Square, Friday from 5 p.m. to 7:30 and Saturday from 10 to 3. All proceeds will benefit Ridgewood Parks, and obviously this is a great opportunity for those of you who need to buy a Mother's Day gift. So it's a great opportunity and to support a great cause. Thursday, May 18th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., we have the Touch a Truck event in the CBD surrounding Van Ness Square. It's sponsored by the Ridgewood Chamber of Commerce and the Village of Ridgewood. This is a great free event where young children can get up close to all the trucks they see every day. They can take a seat behind the wheel of a real police cruiser, climb aboard a shiny fire truck, and this is something we want them to see and feel and experience, so bring your young children to this great event. May 18th, 19th, and 20th are the Chamber of Commerce Spring Ridgewood Sale Days. Come shop, enjoy the bargains, and stay for lunch or dinner. Bergen County Historic Preservation public hearings. The Bergen County Historic Preservation Trust Fund is rescheduling their public hearing from this past Monday night to another date which has not yet been announced. This hearing is for the county to present recommended 2016 Historic Preservation Trust Fund grant application projects. Included in this presentation is Ridgewood's request to restore and stabilize the Zabriskie Shedler House Phase 1. Any residents who are in favor of this proposal, we will post the date of the rescheduled hearing on our website. I recommend, if you can, attend this meeting because, and voice your opinion that you want to support this, because it is something that is beneficial as they make their final decisions as to whether or not they recommend it to the freeholders. Finally, Bergen County Utilities Authority hazardous waste disposal is scheduled for Saturday, May 13th at the Bergen County Campground Reservation, 200 Campground Road in Mawa, from 9 to 3. It's rain or shine. You do need a county ID, a driver's license in order to get in. Hazardous household waste includes such things as car batteries, aerosol cans, fire extinguishers, fluorescent light bulbs, propane gas cylinders, kerosene, used motor oil, insecticides, and gasoline. That's it.
Okay, great. Council reports. Councilman Boyd.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. REAC met yesterday at 6 o'clock downstairs in the garden room. We had several discussions. We began discussions of our bylaws, so they were shown to members there, and we'll do the rest through emails to take comments and amendments and edits. We also discussed whether or not, how we approach the bike rack issue. There's sometimes areas with bike racks are overused and sometimes they're underused, and we're just going to try and understand better the usage of it and whether or not we need more bike racks and what we could do to promote the the areas to park bikes downtown. We also discussed starting a program or discussing a program for smaller children involving recycling to kind of let them know about recycling and batted around ideas for different games and hands-on kind of things that kids could do, and that's going to be ongoing. The Shade Tree Commission didn't meet yesterday, but they kind of did. It was at 7:30 over at the library. We had a discussion with Nick Polanin. He's a certified tree expert with Rutgers, and he talked about planting street trees and the stresses that they have to endure. And it was really, there was a lot of other members from Shade Tree Commissions from neighboring towns. It was kind of, if you're a really involved tree person, that was the meeting to attend. There was a lot of good information. We talked about tree wells, we talked about problem trees, and how to deal with some of the funding challenges in addressing street tree maintenance and plantings. And other than that, that was it. So thank you.
Great. Councilwoman Walsh?
I just have one committee report. We had our Bergen League of Municipalities meeting on Tuesday. There were two guests, Freeholder Chairwoman Zur and Congressman Josh Gottheimer. Sorry about that. A little slip. Freeholder Zur talked about the county budget. Specifically, she talked about parks, the Parks Department, and we are hoping that the Duck Pond, which is a county park, is going to be cleaned up and fixed. When we had our meeting with the county executive, he promised that they would clean up the Duck Pond, and now Tracy Zuris is saying that she's going to clean it up. The congressman spoke basically about his role and got to introduce himself to many of the members of the league, and just talked about some of the things going forward. So that was it. It was a quick meeting.
Thank you. Councilman Hashai?
Nothing from committee's update, but just last week we all saw a presentation from the Pike Company, and it was regarding the proposed latest design for the Hudson Street parking garage. I thought it was a very good presentation. The feedback so far from everyone has been overwhelmingly positive. But obviously we do realize that there's some things we need to tweak. So we've had some discussions with Pike, and they are in the process now of incorporating a lot of that feedback that we're providing based on the responses that we received from you. And we're hopeful that we look forward to having a presentation from them on what should be a final version or maybe 2 or 3 versions for the council to decide on at the May 24th council meeting. Just also wanted to just add more of a comment, not so much of a report, but we've all been meeting with a lot of the folks in the business community, and there was some discussion or some suggestion that this council somehow anti-business or not pro-business at all. So but we've been so busy kind of doing so many things that it's hard sometimes to take time out to kind of pat yourself on the back. But we've done a tremendous amount of work for the Central Business District. One of the first things that we did as a council was the creation of the Central Business District Advisory Committee. We've designated discounted parking for employees, as the mayor previously mentioned, reallocation of commuter parking. We allocated funds to the CBD from our budget. Part of that's going to go specifically to the Central Business District website that we're creating, which will give businesses an opportunity to be able to promote themselves. And most importantly, we'll be able to promote not only our businesses, but also the community of Ridgewood at large. We're also going to set some money aside for beautification of the downtown. That involves some plantings, some more decorative items for the summer and the holiday season. We're bringing a lot of ideas to promote the CBD. Also last week, one of the most recent things that we did was to bring in someone from for the state card that promotes shopping local, shopping small. And we're still going out, modifying the RFP for Central Valet service. So I think it's pretty clear that we're committed to Central Business District. We're not always going to get it right. It's not always going to be pretty. But any suggestions that we're anti-business, I think it's just ridiculous. I just felt compelled to clarify that.
So, yeah, I'm just actually going to take a little lead from that. Even this evening, we are putting voting on a moratorium on, am I correct, Heather, right? We have the moratorium on illuminated signs.
Correct.
And the reason we're doing that is because there are certain displays in the central business district that are deemed to be illuminated signs, but in fact look more, to me anyway, like part of the storefront window displays. And some summonses were issued, and in an immediate response to our business community, we took a look at the ordinance, we reviewed it in detail, we spent, I want to say, a couple of hours on it, and are looking at the ordinance to revise it, and in the interim, putting a moratorium on that particular enforcement issue. So I think we are really supporting businesses, and the last thing we want to do is ever tie the hands of our business owners. Planning Board, Tuesday, May 16th, on deck, K&S Board and Enclave, both with amended site plans, I believe. Don't hold me to that. The meeting will start at 7:30 p.m. right here in this courtroom. And the Dayton application has been continued to June 20th, and we'll move on from there with some final testimony and likely closing that out. 4th of July Committee met Monday evening. They are planning online ticketing, which you can actually purchase online or just from your cell phone. And hopefully, when we get to all this, through this technology piece, tickets will be scanned at the gate, and it will be less of a hassle, hopefully. Just being mindful that the people that volunteer at 4th of July usually come about a week before and have to catch up to speed very quickly. 4th of July will also be doing a 50/50. Hopefully we'll get our permits, is that what we call it? Our application will return shortly. That 50/50, if it sounds familiar, is a $100 ticket. 600 tickets will be sold, $25,000 grand prize, 10 $500 prizes. And I've been told that 4th of July committee members are not permitted to participate. I'm now in questioning whether or not I'm a committee member or a liaison. So, additionally, big news, and on the online ticketing, there will be a small convenience fee because the 4th of July committee actually can't afford to absorb the cost of the transaction. Big and exciting news is the Dad's Night Band will be entertainment for the evening, and so we're really excited because, as some of us know, Dad's Night is really an incredible group. There's a bunch of different groups, and they have a wide variety of music ranging from all eras and types and genres, so we're really good with that. And finally, on Sunday, May 7th, sorry, I have a cold, so I'm trying to catch my breath here. Sunday, May 7th, I had the opportunity to work with the Buddies of New Jersey Incorporated and participate in the HIV/AIDS walk from the Duck Pond over to Dunkerhook Park. I wanted to thank Ray Welsh for putting everything together. It's really interesting, and I'm looking for the website. I don't see it on here. I know it's somewhere, but on Facebook.com, it's New Jersey AIDS Walk. And the statistics are staggering that HIV would be on the rise in the United States, primarily with young adults. And so it's something that everyone needs to look at. And I was reminded when I had the opportunity to speak that in 1982, my friend Tom died of AIDS, HIV/AIDS. And it was before AIDS was very prominent, that HIV was really prominent and in the news, and 5 years in advance of even the drug AZT being available. So we miss him as much today. So it's really, please go to New Jersey Buddies and take a look at that. And with that, we're moving on.
Okay. There are no ordinances for Ridgewood Water this evening. Resolutions.
I need to recuse myself.
Okay. So, Following resolution numbered 17-128 will be adopted by consent agenda with one vote by the village council, and it will be read by title only. Award professional services contract, engineering services for Suez corrosion control. May I have a motion?
Move. Second.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
And Newton?
Yes.
Okay.
Brenda coming. Okay. I move the first reading of ordinance 3599. Bernadette's not here. You want a second?
Second.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh? Let her come up.
Say yes.
What are we on?
We're
On the next page?
reading of ordinance 3599. Just say yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And Newton?
Oh, yes. So ordered. Will the clerk please read ordinance 3599 by title?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 260 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood, trees and shrubs.
I move that ordinance 3599 be adopted on first reading and that June 14th, 2017 be fixed as the date for the hearing thereon.
Second.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton?
Yes. I move the first reading of ordinance 3600.
Second.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton?
Yes, so ordered. Will the clerk please read ordinance 3600 by title?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 212 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood entitled Parks and Recreation Areas at Article 7, Section 212-29, entitled Dogs.
I move that ordinance 3600 be adopted on first reading and the June 14, 2017 be fixed as a date for the hearing thereon.
I second the motion.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton?
Yes, I move the clerk read ordinance 3593 by title on second reading and the public hearing thereon be open.
Second.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton?
Yes. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3593?
A bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements in and by the Village of Ridgewood in the County of Bergen, New Jersey, appropriating $6,241,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $5,928,000 bonds or notes of the village to finance part of the cost thereof.
Public hearing is now open. I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton?
Yes.
I move that ordinance 3593 be adopted on second reading and final publication as required by law.
Second.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton?
Yes. You do the next one.
Oh, okay. I move the clerk please read ordinance 3594 by title on second reading and that the public hearing thereon be open.
Second.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton?
Thank you. Will the clerk please read the title of the ordinance?
Bond ordinance providing for various improvements to the water utility in and by the Village of Ridgewood in the County of Bergen, New Jersey, appropriating $5,745,500 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $5,745,500 bonds or notes of the village to finance the costs thereof.
The public hearing is now open. Seeing no comments, I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton?
I move that ordinance 3594 be adopted on second reading and final publication as required by law.
Second.
Okay, 1 second. And Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And I'll wait 1 second. Newton?
Sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Where you at? Go ahead, keep going, just go.
I move the clerk please read ordinance 3595 by title on second reading and that the public hearing thereon be open.
Second.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton?
Yes.
Will the clerk please read the title of the ordinance 3595?
A bond ordinance providing for preliminary plans for the parking garage in and by the Village of Ridgewood in the County of Bergen, New Jersey, appropriating $210,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $200,000 bonds or notes of the village to finance part of the cost thereof.
The public hearing is now open.
Good evening, Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. I attended the presentation last week that Councilman Hache spoke about when Pike came in and talked about their proposed design for the parking garage. And I do recall hearing that they weren't charging anything for all of the work that they were doing. So I'm a bit confused as to why we are allocating $210,000 for plans to deal with a parking garage if the person who is designing the garage has indicated they're not going to be charging the village for that design. So I was hoping for some sort of explanation as to what this $210,000 is being used for.
Heather?
Well, again, this authorizes this money to be sent. It doesn't actually do it until we actually are ready to do so. So if for whatever reason Pike wasn't the, entity which we decide to go with, then we would have this money available for us to use.
That concerns me because that means that there's $210,000 out there floating. Currently, it would be authorized for a parking garage design, but I've attended many of these meetings and I know what happens. When $210,000 is authorized for one thing and not used, it's shifted to something else. So my recommendation would be, since you have somebody who it sounds like you like, that's going to design this garage and not charge you a dime, to vote no on this, because you don't need the $210,000, and I would not like to see it allocated to something else very quickly. Thank you.
I just want to comment, it'll only be able to be allocated for something within the parking utility. So it's not like it could be used for the general fund or the water utility.
Right, and I think that the issue would be timing on this in the event that, and we believe that Pike is going to work out very well. We're absolutely pleased, and they're not taking any money up front. But in the event that something came up, I think that, we have to be, I guess that's the point, is just to be
really
prepared.
Right,
Okay.
so we don't have to wait another 2 months to adopt an ordinance.
Okay. All right. You want to close that?
Okay. Any other comments? Seeing none, I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton?
Yes.
I move that ordinance 3595 be adopted on second reading and final publication as required by law.
Oh, second, sorry. I'm seeing your initials.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton?
Yes, and with that, I move the clerk read ordinance 3596 by title on second reading at the public hearing thereon be open.
Second.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton?
Yes, will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3596?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 265 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood, Vehicles and Traffic, at Section 265-65, parking prohibited at all times, and Section 265-68, no stopping or standing certain hours.
Public hearing is now open.
Hi, how are you? Melanie McWilliams, 431 Bogart Ave. You know how I feel about this. I worked on this ordinance with the advice and guidance of the Citizen Safety Committee for 8 or 9 years. And despite, the evidence of the fact that it's a safety issue and it is being, in my opinion, reduced down to very little, with a couple of meetings of neighbors that have not shown back up since the couple of meetings they came to. I think they circumvented the system. I did want to address with you that I have reached out to the Safe Routes to School people. We are within an extremely close radius, certainly within a school zone radius of BF and Travell. And the Safe Routes people are willing to come in from the state and free of charge work with our planner, our engineer, myself as the safety chair at Travell, and I'm sure whoever is at BF, and any J. Chuck, anybody that's willing to work, and make recommendations about what they feel is the smartest, based on their expertise as the safe routes people. And I'm really excited to, bring that information to you guys. I've mentioned it to several of you, and I hope that, in this amendment, I look at this as temporary, because I do think that they're going to come in and look at this and see that there is a big safety issue. We do need to do more, probably, than what was even there. And, I'm sorry that this upset certain neighbors, but this was done in the vein of safety for the school zone and for the children that use the street. And, understanding that 20 years ago, walking kids down the street to school, you didn't have texting drivers and speeding drivers and as many drivers as you do now. I understand it must have been confusing, but I look at this as temporary, and I'm looking forward to bringing those people in, and hopefully we can get something better done. Thanks.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Peter Bennett, 448 Cambridge Road.
Could you just pick the microphone up, please?
Move the mic up, Pete.
Peter Bennett, 448 Cambridge Road. Better? Okay. Oh, you know why I'm here, too. Just going to repeat the obvious. It's 98-2, all right? It's two people's opinion, not fact, that there's a safety issue. I would point out that this neighborhood is basically unchanged since the 30s. Nobody's ever seemed to have a problem with it. As far as texting, distracted driving, yes, that's an issue in today's world, but not for the 50 feet of our street where there is no sidewalk. Everybody who lives in this neighborhood moved into the neighborhood knowing there was no sidewalk and knowing the school was across the street. And we've all raised our children or are currently raising children who are currently attending the school who do not feel it's an issue. We presented, well, the vast majority feels a very fair compromise. You all voted to approve it, and I just hope that you follow through on your earlier commitments. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I move the public hearing be closed, somebody second, sorry.
Second.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton?
Yes, but before we move that, I just want to say that this was in the vein of safety, and a lot of heart went into that. And, I appreciate that the residents came forward, and I don't think that 98-2 is relevant in how many people for or against. I think in the vein of safety, it's certainly something that needed to be considered. And the one thing I would say additionally is that the reason this was actually reconsidered was primarily because it was different than what we understood it to be. And we will continue with the safe routes to school. We will look at it, and we will look at their recommendations. So moving on. Sorry, Bernadette.
I need a motion.
Second motion.
No, I need a motion. I need a motion.
Oh, you need a motion.
I can't do a motion.
Motion.
I move that ordinance 3596 be adopted on second reading and final publication as required by law.
Thanks.
Second.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton?
Yes. I move the clerk read ordinance 3597 by title on second reading at the public hearing thereon be open.
Second.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton?
Yes. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3597?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 265 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood, Vehicles and Traffic at Section 265-67, Schedule 7, Schedule 17, parking prohibited certain hours, and Section 265-69, Schedule 19, time limit parking.
Great. Public hearing is now open.
Good evening. Chris Reed, 112 Stanley Place. I want to say congratulations, Mayor, with your news earlier. I wanted to thank this council for listening to the residents and taking their opinions into consideration. When Palmander achieved no parking status through the previous council, there was nothing to base it on besides the complaints of Palmander residents. As a town, we should care what residents say. We must also make decisions based on evidence. We have seen no safety reason for there to be no parking on Pomander. We have no village operational issues on that street. And the fact is, we have seen Pomander residents parking on their street, even when they are insisting no one else be able to park there. Pomander has shown over the past many months that they require parking for their own needs. The narrow section of Sherman Place has one side of the street parking. Washington has one side of the street parking. Garfield has one side of the street parking. Pomander should have at least one side of the street parking too. So please vote to restore parking to Pomander. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Allison McCormick, 51 Sherman Place. I just wanted to really sincerely thank you all for listening to the residents of Sherman, Stanley, and Garfield. We are so relieved that this ordinance provides a fair and equitable compromise, and we urge you to reinstate parking tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's it. I move the public hearing be closed.
Second?
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton?
Yes.
I move that ordinance 3597 be adopted on second reading and final publication as required by law.
Second?
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton?
Yes. I move the clerk read ordinance 3598 by title on second reading and the public hearing thereon be open.
Second.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton?
Yes. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3598?
An ordinance of the Village of Ridgewood and the County of Bergen, New Jersey, appropriating $70,000 for construction of a handicapped accessible ramp at the Irene Habernickel Family Park, including $50,000 from the Bergen County Department of Community Development and $20,000 from capital fund balance.
Okay. Public hearing is now open.
Good evening again, Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. Is this ramp associated with the health barn operation, or is this ramp someplace else in the park other than leading into the building that health barn is using?
No, it's to, well, you can explain, Heather, I can.
It is going into the building. It's not handicapped accessible, so it is going into that building, yes.
Okay, I guess my concern is although we're getting $50,000 in grant money, because of a commercial operation in that building, a $70,000 ramp is required. So what contribution is being made on the part of the business operator to this cost, these costs? In other words, if that commercial entity wasn't operating in that building, we wouldn't need this ramp. So we're building a ramp, they're operating the building, what money are they giving us to build that ramp?
You know, okay. It's a fair question. It is an absolutely fair question.
Is it built into their lease payment? Are we going to be asking for some money at some point in time from them?
Okay, so do we have an answer? Or
We're spending 70 grand because somebody's operating a commercial facility there.
But it is a public building. It is a public building. We do have offices in that building for the Parks and Recreation Department. We also are going to have the women gardeners probably in that building as well. So it is a public building.
So I guess the answer to my question is we didn't ask them for any money to construct this.
So I guess the question is, and it's a very fair question, do we ask or bill out for some portion of the amount of the cost of doing this, since if you're consuming as a commercial business 70% of the space, then presumably you would be obligated to that, because otherwise the taxpayers are funding this.
I know we've made other improvements in the building. I don't know if we've assessed them for some of the other improvements, but yeah, I'm a simple man. If they weren't there, we wouldn't be spending the 70 grand. We're spending the 70 grand. What are you going to give us for it? I'll leave it with you. Don't expect an answer tonight, but maybe Mr. Rogers will come up with some way that we can assess this, a portion of it out. Like you said, if they're using 70% of the building, maybe that 20 grand needs to be, whacked up somehow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, interesting question. All right. With that, I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voight?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes.
I move that ordinance 3598 be adopted on second reading and final publication as required by law.
Second.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voight?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton.
Before I vote, can we go back to them? Can we look at that? I don't want to just put this kind of money.
Well, right now, the 20,000 is coming out of capital fund balance, so if Mr. Rogers can find a way to, assess the business, if he feels that's the proper thing to do, then, and legally we can do so, then I'll certainly ask him to look at it.
Okay, good.
Okay?
All right, great, thank you. Yes.
You know what, I'll just make a comment on
go
that. So I know that a condition of the lease was that she was required to make, I believe it was $60,000 in capital improvements to the building. So that might be something to ask Matt about as well, that it could be tagged back to that 60K.
Well, she made the 60.
I think
she did
she's
the
done it
60.
already.
The 60K is done already.
Well, unless we, all right, we'll talk about this. I just
Yeah.
had a thought cross my mind.
Okay, so Mayor Newton, I'm sorry, did you vote yes, or did you not vote?
Oh, I'm sorry, did I said yes?
Okay, I'm sorry, I just didn't hear it.
Sorry.
Okay. The following resolutions, numbered 17-129 through 17-139, will be adopted by a consent agenda with one vote by the village council. They will be read by title only. Title 59, approval replacement of firehouse roof. Award contract, replacement of firehouse roof. Title 59, approval of school bus transportation services. Award contract, rebid of school bus transportation services day camp. Award contract under county contract rock salt. Authorize additional funding for special attorney for RCRD lawsuit. Authorize application designating Graydon Park historic designation. Authorize shared services agreement, borrowing of counting equipment. Suspension of ordinance for certain illuminated signs. Approve encroachment agreement, The Office Restaurant, 32-34 Chestnut Street. Authorize addition of World War I Ridgewood resident veteran killed in action to memorial plaque. And we did 140 earlier this evening.
Great. Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voight?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes. And with that, we go back to comments from the public.
Good evening again, Boyd Loving, 342 South Union Street. I was at last week's meeting when there was discussion about the flag, flying the flag. And as the mayor indicated, although it wasn't wrapped up completely in terms of where the flag was going to be flying, or where the flag was going to be displayed in this case, I did not leave the meeting with the impression that it was not going to happen anywhere on village property. I heard what the village attorney said, and he suggested that there was an appropriate place for it, and I left the meeting feeling as though, hey, this is where the thing is going to wind up. Apparently, there were a number of people who didn't feel that way, though, and there were a number of people who felt as though it was indicated that it was going to happen nowhere on village property. I was shocked to read this op-ed piece in today's paper written by Councilman Jeffrey Voight, where it basically indicated that he felt it wasn't going to happen on anywhere on village property. He and I were at the same meeting. How does something like this happen? I thought that this was totally inappropriate. I've lived in Ridgewood for over 35 years. This is the first time I've seen an op-ed piece written by a sitting member of the council where basically some misinformation was given. And why the councilman chose to take this route to debate the topic, I don't know. I am a big supporter of free speech. Councilman had every right to do this. However, I was shocked by it, and I thought it was totally inappropriate in this particular situation. To me, this did nothing more than fuel the fire. And the fire was burning quite well, didn't need any more fuel put on it. Thank you.
So, Boyd, I respectfully disagree. I'm happy to talk to you offline about this. It's probably inappropriate to talk about it here. However, I left that meeting with the impression that we weren't going to fly it anywhere. And we had the opportunity that meeting to bring it up, and we didn't. All of us did. We listened to Matt, and we could have done it at that time, and we didn't, and shame on us.
Unfortunately, I'd also like to add, Councilman Voigt was copied on emails the very next morning, very early, that were sent out by our mayor that suggested the park was the appropriate place, and we would begin working on that. Every single council member up here was copied on those emails.
I don't have,
Thursday
Michael,
morning.
I don't have it, Michael, I'm sorry. I looked through all my emails. The first one I saw was on Monday, frankly, and Monday, the reason why I saw the email from Monday from Mayor Knudsen, surprisingly, had to do with the editorial that appeared in the Bergen Record. And I assume that that prompted Mayor Knudsen to send that email. So anyways.
So just for the record, Council, I actually, because of some of this issue that transpired, just incidentally, opened some emails today. And primarily because I spoke to Mr. Dublin, and Dublin, he was quite lovely on the phone, so, but he told me that he had been in contact and had a number of communications with Councilman Voigt. And just to be clear, in one of the communications, I'll tell you, they're hard to read. It's very difficult and troubling to read. But in one of the communications...
Heather, can I ask you a question? How did she get those emails without me looking at them first? I mean, what's the deal with that?
I believe you were given an email from the deputy clerk indicating
And saying that she had requested, but why did she get them? I have to see what... I have to agree to it first. And
you don't have to agree. No, you don't have to agree to it. Because it's a public record. An email is a public record, so you don't have to agree to it.
Not to belabor the issue, I just want to state that in one of the emails that Councilman Voigt forwarded to Mr. Dublin included, I hope I'm saying his name right, Dublin, included the correspondence from Thursday morning at 10:39 a.m. that I wrote after getting back from a hospital at 3 a.m. So there's no doubt that there was the recipient. As a matter of fact, when there's
so what does that email say, by the way? I'm just curious, because
I'm not getting...
Well, no, so it was my impression, Mayor Knudsen, that you did not, in that email, indicate that you were going to move forward with it. It was, so I'm a little shocked that you would even say that.
I think the emails are unequivocal, and I'm happy to share them with
No, go ahead. Read the email. Read the email from Thursday. Let's hear what you said, because, frankly, on Monday is the first time I heard of it.
You're on the email, and I think it says right here.
So can I jump in real quick? I left the meeting on Wednesday night thinking that we weren't flying the flag anywhere. So I was truly myself under the impression. I had no idea that Councilman Voigt had written the letter. I found out about it after it was already published. I think that our meeting last week, and I think everybody knows from my comments last week, that we can do better as a town. I think that I was shocked at the amount of people that reached out to me by phone, by email. I think this conversation here isn't going to serve anybody any good. It's a really tough topic, and I think that we should probably move on and maybe discuss this in closed session. That's a suggestion. Again, I'm getting a little choked up about it because I feel so strongly about the flag. The mayor had made a comment in the meeting that my personal opinion is political. I disagreed with her, or I'm disagreeing with her now. I think that this subject needs more discussion. I don't know if right now is the time for us to do it because we're all trying to get to a better place in Ridgewood, and I'm just going to make that comment.
So just to be clear, I did not say anyone's personal opinion is political. I actually quoted Gloria Steinem, who said, personal is political, political is personal. It was a quote by Gloria Steinem back in the day. And so that was my comment. And I'm just going to wrap it up by just adding, because I said it and I do want to, I'm having some difficulties finding this.
I'm just going to add just a little something, and my disappointment in all of this is that, if you think about what the flag represents, it's about inclusion, it's a lot of, it's tolerance, it's, as we, as the proclamation read, appreciating our similarities while celebrating our differences. And it's unfortunate that something that's supposed to do this is doing, has done the opposite in many respects.
Okay.
I think that's been the most disappointing part of all this. But I think, I hope that we can move forward as a community together and not lose sight of the fact of what it's supposed to represent and not focus so much on where it divides us, but where we can come together. So.
Okay. So on May 10th, Mr. Dublin, Alfred writes, "Oh, I didn't see that it was in your full email chain," and she does respond to the Van Ness possibility. She doesn't commit, but certainly gives credibility that she was not hostile to the idea, and that's in the email chain, and he's referring to the Thursday morning email that was forwarded to Mr. Dublin. It's like I said, troubling to look at that. But in any event...
It is very troubling.
Yeah.
It's extremely troubling, Mayor, that you're making this an issue when it should not be.
Point of order.
I have every right.
Point of order.
I have every right, Mayor, to talk about this.
And we will take a point of order. And
point of order for what?
Point of order.
For what?
And with that, I think public comments were closed.
No,
I'm sorry.
No.
Point of order. Moving
because you don't want someone to speak, you're going to say point of order. Is that the way you deal with your council members?
I just think that you're just being a little decorum. So point of order, and I guess we're going to...
You have another public comment.
One more comment.
Oh, I closed public comment.
I'd like to hear from you, Siobhan,
sure,
please.
So, Siobhan Cranman, about 274 Harvey Place. I think flying in Van Ness is a great place. I think it's a great celebration, and I will, as I said to several of you, I will take it. I am a member of Community Relations Advisory Board. I don't want to talk about emails. I think often with government, and especially small-town politics, everything becomes not what it's supposed to be about. This is supposed to be about the flag. This is supposed to be about a group of people who don't identify with the American flag in its totality and wanted this separate request. I don't believe it's political. I object to that. I don't have anything to prepared. I'm tired of the arguments in Ridgewood. I'm really, really tired. I cried on the phone with 3 members of this council this week. I'm tired of emails and Oprahs and sound bites and everything being about the emails and not about the merits of the issues in them. I'm tired, not with you guys, totally, although I'm a little tired with this week. It's been really increasingly hard to be involved. It's hard, and I think for people who go out there and don't play possum, because I didn't. I petitioned through relations, I wrote individual letters. I am standing here because I wanted this flag flown, and I was clear. And if that was unclear in the message, I signed every email I wrote with my name and my phone number. My emails have been flipped. They're hard to misconstrue because when I get emotional, I bullet. I even preface it. I'm emotional and I'm bulleting. The point is the flag. The point is that brave people came here, not on the wrong day, not as anything. They came here and they expressed themselves, and this is the response. And it's a good response. And I don't know if I speak for all of Ridgewood. In fact, I think I don't speak for anybody other than me. I just want to see the merits of the issue discussed and not discuss the way we're having the conversation. I also think there's better ways to have this conversation. Across the board. It's hard to get in touch with all of you guys. It's just hard. I think I will take the flag in Van Ness. I don't think we should go back and rehash emails because it disincentivizes people from expressing themselves honestly with you guys. The point was the flag, and I'm happy it's being flown in Van Ness.
Thanks, Siobhan.
So I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say my name and address again.
Name and address again,
I have in the
yes.
past. Okay, so I'm Jean Tyson, 385 Colonial Road. You know, I appreciate what you wrote, Councilman Voigt. I think that your letter was very
well-written, and I think that it showed that you stood for our community, and I appreciate that. I am sorry if anybody in this council has felt personally offended by anybody's comments. The situation is that this is important. It's an important topic. We can't look at decisions that are made and behaviors that occur that need to be corrected and put blame on people for making the decisions that they make. We need to judge people about how you stand up and how you come and approach the subject a second time. And when you say, you know what, we kind of rushed through this because we had a personal situation, or we kind of rushed through this for whatever reasons, or maybe some of our comments did leave room for different interpretation than what we intended. It's great to stand up and to say that. And it's great to stand up and to be honest to the people that you might have harmed, because I am telling you, people on this council made statements in that meeting that hurt people. And that's why you saw the backlash. And I'm suggesting that when you see a backlash from a community that is so sleepy as Ridgewood, that it's time to stop and say, why are we seeing a backlash, and invite the community into the conversation. Mayor Knudsen, you speak about a situation where you immediately sent an email out and said that we need to do this, but I didn't see anything that came to the community that was stressed and frustrated and vocal about their concerns that said, you know, would you like to participate in the conversation as we decide what to do going forward? I agree, hanging this in Van Nest is a good solution. I think it's a public place, I think it's a good solution. But I think that some of the people on the council maybe need to think a little bit more about the things that they said and understand that there was harm done, and there's room to help to repair that harm that was done. I think some community outreach is a good thing. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jean.
Diane Palacios, 342 North Van Dien. So anyway, I was listening to the talk about the gay pride flag. And I'm a little older than you, so I've sort of had some experience in that topic. When I was in high school in San Diego, California, a very beloved and esteemed school teacher was suddenly not there anymore. And my parents explained to me that it was discovered that he was homosexual. That was the word then. We didn't have any fancy words like gay. And it was very sad, but that was the law. And you respected the law, even if it was sad. And the policeman, too, had to respect the law. He may not have agreed, but it's the law. Now, many years later, we know that the law has changed. And the law, this is how I feel deep in my heart, and I'm very serious about this. Fanatic. The law has changed because of the American flag. The American flag has allowed these kinds of freedoms to take place and change to take place. This could never have happened under Vladimir Putin's flag or other people's dictators' flag. That's the only flag that counts. It has all the meaning. It gives us meaning, and it has a dynamic relationship. We give it meaning, but it allows us to change. And all this flag waving with other kinds of flags doesn't mean anything. The other kind of flags can exist because the American flag exists. And it takes a lifetime, more than a lifetime, and worship and concentration to really give that flag meaning and to live its principles. And there's not a minute, I mean, it's like a prayer. You can spend your life concentrating on it, like a Bible, even though, you know, you're not supposed to use religious symbols. There's a separation. But it's a sacred, you know what I mean, I'm trying to express myself.
But you're okay, it's all right, you can. We can't, you can.
What?
We can't, you can. You're not separated.
Oh, I'm trying to express how sacred it is, how important, and to live it. And all this stuff about should it be flowing, should it be here or there, it doesn't have to be anywhere. You don't have to wave any flags except the American flag that gives everything meaning and that allows for these kinds of beautiful changes.
Thank you, Diane.
You know, I'll add one comment, Diane. There was years back when the Supreme Court decided that that they would allow the burning of the flag as an expression of free speech. And there was a cover of Time magazine, and it covered the story, and it said, you know, the Supreme Court decision allowing the burning of the flag is probably a reason why you wouldn't want to. I think that's that goes to what you're saying.
Thank you, Diane.
Good evening again, Ann Loving, 342 South Irving Street. So up until last year, we had a mayor that interfered with the press, that stopped at least one citizen's letter from being published, that was in constant contact with reporters. I am really frightened at the prospect that we now once again have maybe a sitting council person who is going to reporters and editors at the newspapers. We can't have that. We cannot be having that situation again. We got out of that situation. I don't want that again, where one of the elected officials is going behind backs and saying things about other elected officials to reporters. Please.
Thank you. Okay. With no one else, we will close public comments, and I did have something I thought I wanted to say, but it's all good. It's all good. Take a resolution.
Okay, be it resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood that the Village Council meet in closed session on May 10, 2017 at 8 p.m. or soon thereafter as the matter on the agenda can be reached. And that said closed session be held in the caucus room on the 4th floor of the Ridgewood Village Hall, 131 North Maple Avenue, Ridgewood, New Jersey. Be it further resolved that the matters to be discussed in closed session are limited to legal matters to include co-litigation and Valley Hospital personnel issues, to include appointments to boards and committees and appointments of professionals and contract negotiations, to include consideration of purchase of property and also personnel contract negotiations for white-collar negotiations. These matters are allowable under NJSA 10:4-12 et sec. Be it further resolved that the minutes of this meeting, hold on one moment, I'm sorry. Also under personnel, we have a policy anti-bullying and anti-harassment. Be it further resolved that the minutes of this meeting shall be made available to the general public when such matters have been deemed completed by resolution of the Village Council. May I have a motion?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you.